Hi guys, just want to talk about the social media aspect along with the news. Now I've got to admit, with Donald Trump, I don't really follow him. I do find stuff he sometimes is a bit bizarre, but to be fair, we've got a manipulated news network, so what would it be if it wasn't bizarre? Because they does seem that very few news groups have anything positive to offer. But it was quite funny. I was watching Channel 4, and they've got this, what's it called? Channel 4 in the UK news. And after the news, I've got to admit, the news on Channel 4 is really biased. But then I watched, I think it's called Unseen or Untold something. And they were on about the Trump wives, and they went in, sort of did a investigative report on them. Now the interesting thing on the whole thing is, I think they were expecting to find something bizarre or untoward, or almost trying to find some racial or some other motivation in there. Now I've got to admit, some, they do have their own views against gay people and all this sort of stuff. And myself, I look at it the bigger picture. Social media has allowed people to form negative groups on whatever you want, and that your own opinion is the only opinion. And that's the problem. Because when I looked at these, they're probably in their 50s upwards women, well, let's just say 45 to be polite, 45 upwards women. Most of them were talking about traditional marriage. They have religious connections, and I think it was in Texas. But ultimately, you're not going to change their opinions. You really aren't. This is the bit that social media doesn't really feed on or understand, or want people to understand, because if people just said, well, you're entitled to your own opinion, it doesn't really feed the search engines. But that's ultimately it. When you sit there and go, okay, these guys have their own view. Politically, they're active, but at the same time, so's everyone else. They are having these gatherings about anti-gay this and anti-gay that, and how wrong it is. But to be fair, that's what they do. That's them. In the same way, when it was sort of live streamed, the gay movements then turned up and protested. Now, the reason I bring this up is it's two sides to the same coin. They're at opposite extremes. They will never meet in the middle. I mean, the one guy there was the adopted son of one of the women from what they call the Trump wives group. She would not accept she accepted he was gay to a point, until he wanted to bring his boyfriend into their house, and she didn't want the grandkids accepting that. Now, for me, it's her house. I don't go in trying to convert people to my opinions. As I say on this channel, if you don't agree with me, there's plenty of YouTube channels out there. You can go and get anything to suit whatever you like. But the important bit is that you understand that a lot of this stuff is opinions. A lot of it is, information is fact. And this is what the other thing is: you'll find facts to suit whatever agenda you want, because that's how manipulated the internet is today. So the point is, you will always find something to suit, because it depends who funded the information in the first place. So this guy wants to be accepted by his adoptive mother. At the same time, she will never accept him in that way. And like I said, up to a point, she didn't have a problem with him, with his sexuality, until he wanted to bring his partner into her house, with the grandkids and whatever. From her, my personal view is, I wouldn't do that. I'm straight myself, but if I had somebody that had very conservative views, I wouldn't do it. you're entering their domain. And this is where things are going wrong. Because they don't have to be accepting. In the same way, I don't need to know what other people are up to. I don't care if somebody's gay or not. I don't need to know their entire life story. If they turn up to me and say, you know, we go out for dinner and say, hey, this is my partner or whatever, whoever, I'm like, okay, not bothered. But at the same time, you've got to recognize some people don't think that way. I don't force my I can't even call it openness. I'm just not interested. I'm not bothered. It has no negative or positive impact on me, because I believe people should be able to make their own decisions, which then gets back to the reverse of what's going on here with these two groups, because neither of them are listening to the other group. They're going, I want. But the common sense bit is going, okay, you've done I want for 3 years now. You are never going to get on the same page. You are never going to accept each other. And you can't force acceptance. That gets into the realms of fascism. What you need to do is simply accept both of you are different and neither of you are going to change. Your adopted mother will never have you in the house again. You want to live your own life, go and do it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with either. And that's what I find peculiar. I mean, with the Channel 4 thing, I think they were trying to find something really bad about these people, but they were just traditional people. Their views are, you start heading south, you start getting the whole racial thing starting to come in, and a few of the people I know do have race problems, in the sense of there's a serious dislike, but often they have their own stories that come out, what happened to a relative or whatever, because some of those areas are delicate. Now, I can't judge somebody on that, and I've had somebody actually turn around and say to me, well, if you're friends with this guy, you should delete me and all this stuff. It's Facebook. If you're not happy, delete yourself. My view is the guy is entitled to his own opinions. If he starts ranting off, with hate speech, it's different. But the guy just has very strong views about certain things, and if you don't listen to him, you can't then say your view's better than his, because you're not willing to listen to his. What you should actually do is not listen to either. If you're not interested, don't get involved in it. If you think you can dictate and change somebody, you're wasting your time. Because you're not willing to understand that one of his relatives has been murdered by people from a certain background. And that's where it becomes very embedded, and you ain't going to change it. But that's the bit that's missing in society today. Everyone forms groups around their own views. They don't form groups around the IDC. I don't care. This is 'cause I don't care. And it's not me being negative. It's just like, look, let's be honest. If you're going to sit there and moan about this and moan about that, I don't care. And the whole point of that is quite simply to say, look, we're friends. Why destroy that over something that A, we're not going to resolve, B, we're not going to come to a agreement on it, in the sense of it's more likely we'll stop talking. I know some people will probably whine about my delete, ban, block policy that I have on my YouTube channels. Quite simply, when you come out with hatred or dumb responses, I can't be bothered to engage. I've got to be honest. I've got better things to do with my time. It's like somebody who's on about, the money people make from YouTube. Hey, I don't even keep any of the money. I never have. I've always given my money away. So that whole aspect is no, because that money funds stuff in the Philippines. End of. I don't keep it. And it has been like that since 2012. So I'm not first, and it's not a big money spinner. It's just that I like making YouTube channels. I like engaging with people. I like discussing things with people. But ultimately, I think people just need to recognize people are different. People like or dislike each other. People will never all be in some utopian society, because one person's utopia is another person's nightmare. That's just the grim reality of life. And what I find fascinating on this is people focus on this stuff, yet can't see it's left the entire political arena empty. You only listen and look for the stuff that is highlighted by the news or somebody else has looked into something. It's left the entire political arena empty. Nobody's challenging most stuff. They'll go on Facebook, have a moan, and call it a day. A lot of the stuff that is important, the whole weapons of mass destruction from Iraq, where did that fizzle out? This whole COVID thing, when we start getting billions spent on vaccines that we don't need, in my personal opinion. And to be honest, with the way the stats are going, it looks like they're trying to fudge the figures right now to try and make it look like, we still need the vaccine, not that either herd immunity's occurring or the infection was never as bad as they made out. Because it's one of the two. Because we seem to have a massive increase in cases, but less fatalities. Something's not right. But at the same time, people will argue about equality. And where I get cringy on it is when I see false equality, where people are butt kissing. When people are going, because there was LGBT whatever today group had a day, and then I seen somebody on a corporate site go, I'm going to watch some movies around this for today. Who cares? If you watch them. You don't need praising for it. You didn't heal somebody. You didn't cure cancer. You didn't stop a war or something. You've decided to watch Netflix. Good for you. Yeah. Well, that's me for today on that stuff. But ultimately, they couldn't find too much to moan about. If anything, it was a big concern in how the gay movement or whatever it was decided to go to the meetings that these Trump wives were having, and the Trump wife group seemed very worried about it. Just peculiar, in that sense that it's okay to victimize another group and that's fine, which I think sort of the journalist is probably thinking, well, we've already paid for making this now. We're going to have to produce something, but we weren't expecting them to become the victims in a peculiar way. It just sort of lost its whole trail at that point. But if you want my personal views, I have no problem with people being whatever they want as long as it's not harming others. People with religion, no problem with people having religion. My personal religion views, I don't have any. That's the thing where they go, well, you don't believe in God, so you must be an atheist. I don't even think about it. I really don't. So I don't even get into those realms. But what I did hate about religion is having to go to the church when my father was in the military still, for all these parades and stuff to make the numbers up. Also, when I was in the Scouts, you had to do it every Sunday and all that nonsense. That's the bits I hated. But I just found it boring. Really did. But didn't bother me. Didn't affect me. Didn't have a negative impact. I wasn't one of the choir boys in one of these scandals. So, for me, religion hasn't had a negative or positive effect. It's just been there. But creed, colour, anything, I've got no problem with anybody. Vive la vive. Live and let live. I don't bother, and most of the time I don't care. And most of the time, IDC, I don't care. But on top of that, I don't need to know. You know, it's. I remember this coming in. I mean, I'm trying to wind this up, but I remember this all starting, this movement starting back late, probably 2005 or whatever, when people actually were starting to come out and go, "Oh, did you know I'm gay?" This sort of thing. I'm like, I don't know Barbara's husband, and I've worked with her for 4 years. And I don't know even if she has a husband. I don't need to know about your sexuality. And I'm not interested because I don't know you in any social aspect, and no interest in knowing you in any social aspect. Because in the office environment, the last thing you want people knowing is your own business, because gossip in the office is king. So I'll try to keep away from all that nonsense. It's just not worth the hassle. But was I shocked when no, I couldn't care. And if somebody's bothered that I don't care, you're actually turning around saying I'm not entitled to my own opinions, and my lack of disinterest is wrong, which is just dumb. Anyway, thanks for watching.